The monies that most people allocate to lead gen, we allocate to pumping into our community.
Do I want to take this money or do I want to reinvest it in making my business more capable?
The transactions and the monies and the commissions will come. But it took me a long time to understand that. I really have conducted my business a lot differently in the last 10 or 12 years than I did in the first 15, that's for sure.
That sizzles, man. That's so good.
We were able to trace 17 sales from 2016 till about a year ago, the last time we did this for somebody. 17 sales to that.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it's just a transaction. What's
Mm-hmm.
interesting about that?
People will forget what you say, they forget what you do, but they never forget how you made them feel. Welcome to the Leads Are Shit. My name is Taylor. I'm a real estate agent in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm a team leader, and I'm normally here with the founder of Just Sell Homes and the owner of Real Estate Magazine, Andrew Foliato. But we've upgraded Andrew. Instead, I'm bringing you Joe Fitzpatrick. Now, Joe is the broker owner of Remax Results, which was kind of a culmination of you creating a real estate team that was too big for the box, right? And
Yes.
you're in Rhode Island, and now you've been among the top in our industry for it's got to be close to 20 years.
Well, I've been with Remax for well over 20 years, but I wouldn't describe my first 10 years as near the top. But yeah, I've been getting slowly but surely getting there, progressively, probably since around 2008 is when we really started taking this seriously, and I would say that we have progressively grown every year since. Yes, but we're
That's
definitely at the top now.
awesome. Just adjusting my screen so I can see you there. The So I remember meeting you the first time. We were at a invitation only event for Remax, and we were talking about things that, like, I remember talking to you the first time, and just the ideas that you were bringing forth. You're so community minded, and that's actually kind of, I think, is a great first impression for you. Is I remember you talking to me and seeing it in places where we were seeing Clean It Up Joe.
Yes.
Now, can you tell me that story? I've got it before, but it's just better when you tell it. But your
Yes.
community wasn't doing a very good job when it came to managing public, like, trash, right?
Well, let me preface this by saying that people, including myself, that do not serve the city in any way, don't really have the right to complain about those who do. So I don't really want to blame the city, or didn't at the time. I was just making some observations that I thought, in general, there was a bit of a trash problem. I didn't really want to, throw anybody under the bus. But yes, in essence, I thought that somebody at the city could have been doing a better job. So what happened was, I think this was July of 2000, well, maybe 18, I'm not sure, but it was several years ago. I just got up on a Sunday morning like I usually do. I played a lot of soccer back then, but I had a day off, so I went for a run. Anyway, I went out for a run, and as I was running around the city, it was July, and it was very early in the morning after a Saturday night where Newport can get quite busy. It might even have been one of the festivals, Folk Fest and Jazz Fest are both in July. But anyway, everywhere I went, I was just noticing overflowing trash. So that the city barrels were there, they were plentiful. There was a lot of them. They just weren't being emptied, in my opinion, often enough. And there was some overflowing trash. So when I got back to my house, I had taken some pictures of the worst areas. I just did a Facebook rant slash post, which ended up going just completely viral. I actually just said, look, this is a problem. I'm not happy about it. Yes, I'm complaining, but I'm also offering a solution. I'm looking for five of the business owners to write me a check for $1,000. And I'll walk in there Monday morning and I'll talk to the city manager and I'll say, why is this happening? And if he says anything other than the fact that it's not in the budget, then I will simply hand him the $5,000 and say, make it in the budget. You've got about 6 weeks left of kind of high season here. Let's just make this happen. Okay. What ended up happening was we got thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of views and clicks and donations that we didn't even ask for. And next thing I knew, I think it was very close to $20,000 in individual $20 and $10 and $15 donations on Venmo, which people had sent, even though if you read my original post, Taylor, it literally says, "Don't Venmo me. I'm just going to hit up some businesses," but they did anyway. Um, and this was all happening on a Sunday afternoon, and it blew up. Like it had like 1,000 shares, or I don't know what. Well, I don't know what's impressive on Facebook, but whatever is impressive, people are like, "Oh my God, this is insane." I got to my office Monday morning. I had a call at 8 a.m. telling me that the mayor was going to be in my office at 9 a.m. This is literally less than 24 hours later.
Holy.
And the mayor came to my office, sat with me, asked me what I thought the solution was. I told them what my plan was, with or without their involvement, and they were on board, and we've been working together basically ever since to keep Newport clean. I hope that wasn't the long version of a short version you wanted, but that's essentially what happened. It was a 24-hour whirlwind, but here we are 6 years later or 5 years later. I'm not even sure when it was. And it's still happening. So hashtag clean it up, Joe, is kind of a big deal in my town. Everybody knows about it. Even little kids. I was going over the zebra crossing with my family, not last summer, the summer before, and like literally a 5 or 6 year old child went, "Hey, mommy, there's the trash guy." So even though my kids were like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I got a bit of a kick out of it because I'm like, "Okay, that's good. If they want to know me as the trash guy, I will take that all day because I think that's great." But yeah, we're a marketing firm anyway, Taylor, as you know. And we did kind of run with this, so to speak, but it did start very genuinely, and it did start very, and it is still very genuine. But then we ended up kind of really kicking in the clean it up Joe things with clean campaigns, and I became the trash guy, and we bought all these barrels, and we volunteered to do trash for all these events, and anyway, it just kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger. But it is a great community involvement for me, and I love being known as the trash guy.
Yeah. Well, that's something that you really get known as being like a villager, as being somebody who's within the community that cares about the community and takes care of things. And also, how could you be more valuable than doing something that no one else wants to do? Like
That's
that's such
true.
a neat thing. So I like that you say that you're like a marketing company, and seeing through this, you got to see a little bit of disruptive marketing, of doing something that obviously isn't the same as any other realtor in your marketplace. So immediately a differentiator. Was
Absolutely
there
a
anything else you
differentiator.
learned from doing that?
Well, I was passionate about it. I've always been a trash guy. Like I've always walked down the street, and if I see trash, I pick it up. Even at the elite retreat last week, we went off on a hike, and I came back with like, just handfuls of trash. People were like, "What are you doing?" I've just always kind of hated the concept of litter bugs and littering. It just always bothered me, even when I was younger. So it was kind of natural. I fell into it because of the Facebook post, but I guess it bothered me because it bothers me. So I think that it was natural for me. It was something that I was into. I'm always into the community, as you know. We sponsor endless events here. We put all our money into our local community, working our SOI, working our community, be seen, branding versus Zillow spend or lead gen, which is an absolutely fine business model. It just doesn't suit us. So the monies that most people allocate to lead gen, we allocate to pumping into our community and being the Coca-Cola, or McDonald's, or Adidas, of real estate teams here in our market.
Do you remember when like that was like a daunting task? Like I remember in real estate when I was new and I was trying to decide whether it or not it was worth it to spend on an office. Right? You were so particular about the money in coming out, like what's going in, what's coming out. When you grow to become the Coca-Cola of Newport Beach, right?
Newport County.
Newport County. When you grow to that, it has to start somewhere. What did the first few steps look like?
It's trusting the process, right? I think the biggest step for me, and I'm not sure what direction you want to go in with this call. I'm sorry, but when I took the step of becoming an S corp individually, where all of the income generated by me and the team members all went into an account, and then the S corp paid me a salary, it allowed me to, I think, get freedom from that. Hey, okay, I just made 10,000. Am I going to spend this? Because now it just all goes into a pool, and then we kind of use that pool to spend wisely. We have budgets for everyone on the team. Every listing. I know that some people spend, maybe 2.5 of their net commission. Some people pay 10% of their net commission. We pay between 5 and 7. So we have a budget for everything. It all comes from this big pool of monies that we have as a Fitzpatrick team. So I think for me, the financial ability to see myself as an employee of my real estate team was where I was able to get I wonder if it's courage is the right word, but the ability or the courage to start taking on expenses when it comes. I mean, I think at this point, our marketing budget is probably $250,000. So I mean, and our payroll is higher than most. But these are decisions that I made. I trusted the process, and here we are now. Years later, it's worked out. But I did have a problem at the start differentiating between, hey, okay, one transaction is, I'm just going to use the arbitrary number of $10,000. How much of this am I going to reinvest in, whether it's a brick and mortar space, whether it's marketing, whether it's advertising, whatever it is that your spend is, whether it's lead generation. That's, I think, a lot of people's biggest spend. For me, it was easier when I became free from, feeling like each commission was what I had to live off of and instead paid myself a salary. It also helps you become a relationship agent versus a transactional agent. So I'm not here to give tax advice, but it was liberating for me to be able to free myself from the pressures of, being in a sales job where every day you got to start over, right? You know all about that, Taylor. And paying myself a salary and having my real estate commissions fund the account that paid my weekly salary.
So to make sure I have that right, like what you're talking about is achieving abundance first. So a lot of times in real estate, it starts as a sales function. And if you're very good at selling your time, you sell all of your time. And then if you're effective at managing that, then you have an excess. All of a sudden you have more money and you can choose, do I want to take this money or do I want to reinvest it in making my business more capable, be able to do more? Because if you don't, you're kind of stuck in selling your time. You're kind of stuck
I
in that
agree.
spot. Like,
Yeah,
remember that real grindy spot of your career where you just sold all of your time and had no time
yeah.
left?
But I also was selling time and selling houses. Now I understand I'm really just selling myself. I mean, this is just a giant popularity contest at the end of the day. If people like you and if you do the right things and if you tell it like it is, and if you treat people right, the transactions and the monies and the commissions will come. But it took me a long time to understand that. I'm an old fart now and I have kind of a lot more, I think the word is wise. But I'm certainly a lot smarter now and see things in a bigger picture than I did, when I was young and aggressive and hungry in my early 20s. I've been licensed now for 27 years. So I really have conducted my business a lot differently in the last 10 or 12 years than I did in the first 15, that's for sure.
And that's so good to hear because I seriously look back on my own self and I was like, man, I was a maniac. Like, some things you're like, yeah, I was a little bit extra on some of these things. But right now, it sounds like you're in the part of your career that many people want to get to, where they're like, yeah, you know what? I have kind of done what it takes to be in this position. But like drawing the parallels to be like this and then that, and like where do you decide? Like one of the things you were mentioning is that you have a spend into your community and you obviously have a budget for that, right? But
Yes.
with all the people that have needs and all the different places where you can spend and fund charity, when somebody comes to you, like, what is your criteria in general to say, like, yeah, I would do that or I have to pass?
I'll tell you because you're asking me and I'm being honest, but I'm acknowledging that this doesn't really provide any value to any of your viewers. But we essentially say yes to everything. If somebody wants a 50 or $100 donation, we basically know in our budget that we can say yes as many times as we want. Now you just have to take that and allow and adjust that to you and your abilities. But we try to plan in advance. We have some no exception charities that we hit every single year. We have some no exception galas that we attend every year. We put those in a calendar. We budget them out. We will have money's left over, which we try to allocate as best as possible. Sometimes I'll get a call in September and I'll be like, we ran out of our budget in mid-August. I'm sorry, but sometimes we make exceptions for those things depending on who it is. But for the most part, we focus on the local community events or charities that we're passionate about. So for the most part, Taylor, you would be most passionate about something that either you or a family member or a close friend were affected by. So we start
Hmm.
with those. We include all the team members. So if there's a team member that has a particular affiliation to the MLK Center or to Lucy's Hearth or whatever local charity that they are, that gets priority. So, and then we spread our way out. But, all of the local schools, all of the local charities, all of the food distribution areas, we pretty much say yes every single time. And I'm acknowledging that doesn't provide your people with a whole lot of value because I'm not really answering your question, but that's where we're at now. We're at the point where our budget allows us to say yes a lot.
I'm picking up what you're laying down, which is like you've made this a priority over time to the point where it's got such a budget that you guys are nodding more than you're shaking your head, right? A lot
Absolutely.
more participation. And that also is evidence that it's creating value in like those win-win situations where it's valuable for you, it's valuable for the people that you're donating to. Like for me, when I donate to things like somebody calls me for their kid's sports team, like I'm expecting nothing to ever come of that. Like unless I participate with that team and meet those people, it's not going to happen. So that's also something that I think about. Like if I'm going to sponsor a sports team, is there something that I can be more involved in? Like, hey, you know what? I'll pay for the whatever you guys want for this, but when you're doing your yearly wrap up, can you call me in advance of that? Because
Absolutely.
that would be something
That
where I
just
could
makes
actually
sense.
like make relationships. And I think that many people wouldn't tie that in because you're talking about attending these galas. And that's where I
We
see like
attend.
evidence of action.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a YMC event next Thursday that kind of fell through the cracks. It resurfaced this morning. We're like, oh my God, it's November 7th. We need to figure this out. We pushed in a message out to the agents. The tickets were gone like that. We're all going to attend. It's a VIP event. We get to put our Fitzpatrick team wrap car. It was a very, very nice event, but we just somehow missed it. Um, but we'd already budgeted for it. We'd already paid for it. It was already in the calendar. We just, like I said, we missed it. But we want to participate. I will double check this with Claire if it's important, but I'm almost positive it was 42 events that we attended collectively last year, whether it's a gala or a social or a fundraiser or a charity event, or obviously all the races. I run all the 5Ks, 10Ks, the 10 milers. There's a half marathon now, which I'm going to sign up for, but I'm not going to do a marathon. That's at 50 years old. I'm past that, I think. But we like to participate, and we had 25 people run on the Fitzpatrick team for that 10K 2 weeks ago. 25 people
Wow.
wearing matching Fitzpatrick. That's participation. That's where your altruism and business sense can come together in harmony, right? Because it is for I think it was the Norman Bird Sanctuary. It is for a charitable event. There is a charity tied into that. In fact, I think anybody listening to this that's a real estate agent, if you do events, all your events should have a charity tie-in. But that's another conversation for another day. But what I'm telling you is participation is what's key. So I'll tell a very quick story, but about 6, 7 years ago, Newport Rugby, which is a local team here. I went to watch a game with a friend of mine. And I know all the rugby guys, and I'm a rugby fan, so it's not like I've never heard of this before. But I went there on a Saturday afternoon. Actually, it was more like 10 years ago. And it was a beautiful Saturday afternoon. I'm looking around. There's like 300 people there, right? At a Newport Rugby game, home game at Fort Adams. Weather was beautiful. All the conditions were right. It was a nice July afternoon, and there was nothing else clashing with it. But I'm like, you know what? I want a piece of this. Everybody here is like 24 to 35, right? 22 to 35. It's my demographic. I'm Irish. I understand the game. I play it. I play. I'm a soccer player, but I know about rugby. I can at least wing this. And what we ended up coming up with was we found out that there was, say, 25 core players, and then they had another kind of 20 or 25 core players that play kind of B side or filled in. And then there was like 50 past players, and then there was some like club members that were interested. But you had about 160 people that were dues paying Newport Rugby members. We bought them all a Canterbury jacket. They were $65 each, a nice rain jacket with Fitzpatrick team on the back, their number and their initials on the sleeve and their logo. So they felt like it was them, right? I'm there, but I'm in the back. right? But I'm there. I'm subtly aware. People are subtly aware that I'm there, and they see it after a period of time. But we started attending all the games, and we went to the rugby gala, and we attended their AGMs, and we showed up at their charity events where maybe a player got injured and they had to, come up with some hospital bills, and we were present, and we were able to trace 17 sales from 2016 till about a year ago, the last time we did this for somebody. 17 sales to that jacket purchase. So we spent $6,000, $6,000 to $8,000, and we were able to show $100,000 return on that. But I'm keying in on your point, which is yes, it's great to sponsor, but if you couple it with presence, that's where you really see the results.
Yeah, and that's a cool story. Like, what a great tie-in between those two things. And I think this will help people make decisions on whether or not they want to participate in something because you do have to show up. So if you're, somebody was
If
talking to
you
me
want those
about,
kinds of results, you do, yeah.
well, that's anything. There's a bunch of people that do mail outs to neighborhoods and never go and meet the people there. And
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
yeah, you can get results from that, but that's definitely the hard road.
Correct. If there was an under 12 hockey team that I'd never heard of in another town that somebody randomly asked me to write a check for $300 for, I would, but I would expect nothing in return. Unless it's somebody that I have a direct connection to, or I'm going to participate, or I'm going to show up, or I'm going to at least put my face in front of these parents once or twice a season, then at that point you are just kind of writing a check. And there's nothing wrong with that. Your expectations need to be virtually nothing.
When you kind of zoom out and take a look at your marketing and what your preference is now, like you were saying that you choose community involvement over many other types of marketing, you've probably tried a lot of things related to community marketing. What would you not do again? What did you try and you're like, like it just doesn't work the way I wanted it to?
Um, I can't really think of anything, Taylor. I'll try and give you an explanation why. Is that it's very difficult to, and we don't try to establish an ROI to a particular event. We have like a very deliberate 10-year, very broad plan where it's very much branding first, community involvement, and we're correlating our increased sales every year to our increased community event. So it's a very broad brush, so to speak. So I can't think of an event where I was like, I didn't like that, it didn't work, let's stop doing it. To be honest with you, I can't think of one. We do everything, whether it's a ice skating event for our clients, to U6 soccer with Fitzpatrick team on the chest, to the rugby guys. Obviously, I sponsor my Newport team because I played for them for almost 28 years. We do volleyball, we do Portsmouth cheerleaders, we do the junior ice hockey team. I told you about a friend of mine in North Kingstown. It's not even our town. I just wrote a check, but we just kind of do everything. So I'm not sure that I can think of one event where I said, hey, this isn't really for me. One thing I've kind of gotten out of was we were doing a lot of kind of expensive high-end golf tournaments where we would sponsor there's like a bag that the golfers get. I forget what it's called. But anyway, there's like a
Like a
bag that
goodie
each,
bag.
kind of like a goodie bag, right? And we would get like really nice, expensive golf balls, and it was like a $10,000 by the time you fill these bags and create them, and every golfer would get one. And the thought process was, it was at a very high-end golf course, and it was expensive, $2,000 for a foursome. So the thought process was higher entry level, luxury type buyers, and we would get higher end. So we kind of said, we'd rather spread it out and be hit the entire community than try to target specific markets. In this instance, we were trying to target luxury buyers or affluent buyers or whatever wording you use. So I think if anything, we decided to make it more broad and hit, we want to hit every member of the community, not just a specific target market.
Hmm. So that's interesting to me. Like, you learned where to go too niche, or where it is too niche that it doesn't really align with your 10-year plan.
It didn't really, because we were too reliant. We also did like a high-end tennis tournament, which was also $10,000 sponsorship for a booth. We were way too reliant on that 5-day tennis tournament, or that say 6 or 7 hour golf tournament to tie into an actual can we place this rental or sale to that event in order to justify the expense? And it
Hmm.
just didn't align with what our overall long-term, broader 10-year branding plan was. So I would say to answer your direct question, those are two events that we no longer do. One was a high-end golf tournament that we did for I think 3 years, and then the booth at the Tennis Hall of Fame tournament, which is an ATP Tour event. I think we did that twice, and we made a decision that because it's not just the 10,000 for the booth, it's that we had two agents there twice a day for 4 hour shifts each for 5 days, which adds up as well. It's time, money, effort. And obviously, we had some swag and whatever we were giving out. So I think it might have been, I don't think we were able to tie a direct result to that. Not that that's a reason to drop one, because it's not. But I think we just made a decision to make a more general approach with our community involvement than targeting one specific fire pool.
Hmm. You use the word swag. Do you know that that's an acronym?
I do not.
Stuff we all get.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's an interesting kind of niche as well. It sounds like you do quite a bit of that, like branded merchandise.
Do you want me to walk you into our swag room?
What? You got a swag room?
We have a swag room.
So tell me about how this started. Like
Well, it's the
the
branding. It was all part of the branding. We had
Yeah,
the
but did you make
hats,
like an affiliation
jerseys.
with one person to get this? Do you get this from everywhere? Like it sounds like if you have a room, that this has meant that you've had to come and find different places to get different pieces and
No, we
start to
used the
store them.
same. We just used a local distributor. He was in my B&I a few years ago. I met him. I liked him. We give him all our business. He's a local Newport guy. I'm sure I could get it from China for cheaper, but that doesn't appeal to me. And it, in fact, defeats the entire purpose, or at least a majority of that purpose, which is what we're trying to get involvements from people. Ryan, who owns that store, has sent me referrals, much like all of the local businesses that we use, which makes up for any sort of savings I could get from ordering on the internet from China or wherever these things come from. So to answer your question, we use a local company. I'm sure it's not the cheapest, but we get hats, t-shirts. Every race we do, we make custom shirts. So we just did a race. In fact, there's probably t-shirts in there that I could show you from the Ocean 10K we did last week. And we ordered like 35 of them because 25 have showed up. So there's always extras in case people want them. We've got hats, we've got golf balls, we've got blankets, we've got beach bags, everything you could possibly think of.
I feel like we need to see it. And like, are we going to be like disconnected from Zoom here? How does this actually work?
Well, it's just we have an entire swag room in my office. I could just walk you
Yeah,
in there
but
with
you
my
can take
laptop.
your laptop with you?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
You
go.
want to go? All right,
I,
let's
de
go.
I definitely want to go. I disconnected my earphones here. I'll get that sorted. But
Say
we're now
hello.
touring through Max results, meeting some people. Yeah, hi there.
So this is the swag room right here.
I
So
can
this
hear
is
you
a
now.
room. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so like bags, right? This is it. This is to put your drinks in, right? If you're going to the
Oh, a
beach.
freezer bag. Yeah, cooler
Yeah.
bag. Yeah.
Okay. So here. What's this? This is a Fitzpatrick team pillow for some reason. We have our own Fitzpatrick team beers. Have you seen these? We have beers with our own labels.
No way.
Yeah.
You gotta lower the camera. Just oh, there it is. Yeah. Look at that.
So we have our own Fitzpatrick team beers, pillows. These are bags. These are woolly hats that you can wear to the, Patriots game or whatever.
We're
Well,
Canadians, man. Those are called toques.
okay, so they're toques. So this is right here. You can see this or not, but this is a sleeve
Oh,
of
golf
golf
balls.
balls with our logo on it. You can see that, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Your logo does really well as an icon.
I
Like,
really like it. These are hats. Can you see
mhm.
these? These are t-shirts. In fact, here's one of those 10K. These are the custom ones we did for that race last week. I don't know if
I
you can
keep
see that
getting
or not.
nervous about pulling the trigger on golf shirts because there's not many I like.
These are bags. Fitzpatrick team blankets. These are grocery bags. So if you need to meet some people, if you haven't met enough people, you can take 1,000 of these and go to Stop and Shop or whatever your local store is and just hand them out. People love those. And then, up here is just all a bunch of pens. keychains, all sorts of stuff. So
That's pretty awesome.
yeah.
So you found that like you like this stuff, it's effective, you got a good source for it. So it sounds like you just like order and meet minimums and then store it and decide where you want to use it.
Yeah, basically. I mean, the some of them are fairly easy because every single closing that we do gets a 4 pack of Fitzpatrick team beer and the champagne and certain swag items. So if we have, say, 200 transactions, we know we need 200 of those, and then we hand them out all the time at events, or sometimes we use them for pop buys and so on. But yeah, for the most part, we just always have a lot of swag items here. We're most known for our hats, and then on like July 4th, we have that standard blue truck hat that you saw.
Hmm.
But like on July 4th, we do an American flag July 4th hat, limited edition. You have to go onto Instagram and claim one. Then we have a green one for St. Patrick's Day, for example. So we have these limited edition Fitzpatrick team hats that people like to collect because we only make 50 of them. So you have to be one of the first 50 people to respond to
Oh,
our Instagram post, and then you have to get one.
that sizzles, man. That's so good.
We're creating demand for hats that people want that have my brand. So they want to, even if they don't like me or my business, that they want the hat and they like it. They're directly or indirectly supporting my brand, just like all those rugby guys that had
Hmm.
their number, their initials, their rugby logo. It's their jacket. They are directly or indirectly, consciously or subconsciously supporting Fitzpatrick team on the back, which is obviously a little more subtle, but still very visible.
Well, that's a good thing because from what I understand, a rugby is a game that's played by gentlemen and watched by hooligans. The
Mm.
opposite of soccer, a game
Yeah,
that's
well,
played by,
something like that.
or no, it's the other way around, right? They say
Played
soccer is a
played
game
by
played by
hooligans,
gentlemen.
play like gentlemen. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it absolutely is true. That's just one story that I was thinking about that that I think kind of gets the message across that people thought I was out of my mind spending $6,000 on jackets for a rugby team that I don't play for. But I knew sitting on that hill because the side of the pitch is hilled. It was a beautiful day. I'm looking down. The game is awesome. There's like 300 people. I'm like, okay. Well, my first idea was I'm gonna buy these guys a scoreboard and put Fitzpatrick team on it, which
Ah.
I loved, but they only play 8 games in the autumn and 8 games in the spring. I was like, I
Hmm.
don't know, I don't know. I want more exposure. Of course, 4 of those are away, so there's only 4 home games, 4 away games. So I was like, I want more than that. So, and what we came up with was this Canterbury, which is a rugby brand, like Adidas is soccer, or
Hmm.
not Adidas. You call it Adidas. Adidas. So Adidas for soccer is the same thing as Canterbury is. So we got like a rugby brand, a good quality jacket. I mean, this was 2016, Taylor. I still see a minimum of one of those jackets every week walking up and
That's
down the street.
incredible.
In
Well,
in,
I
in
think in
when it's
the
cold
old,
enough, obviously.
I think now a lot of people will buy shirts for the brand that they like and for things they like to be associated with, right? But if you go back to the beginning of advertising, companies would pay people to wear their shirts or give the shirt for free so that you would wear the advertising. Eh, That's kind of a neat throwback to the origins of branded merchandise. Like people don't realize this, but in the 50s and 60s, you would have never seen like a graphic T-shirt. Like you would have never seen anybody wear like a Coca-Cola T-shirt unless they were working for the company and on shift.
I could see that.
Yep, and that's totally changed. That's a really cool idea. I love the branded hat stuff. That's really awesome. And also all the things that you're talking about with synergy with the community around you. This was something that set you apart, even among like some of the groups that we hung out with. Like, I love the people I meet in fast company. And like when you and I first met, we were surrounded by some of the best agents in the world. It's incredible to say, but one of the things that stood out even in that group was your understanding of how the relationships in your business community worked. You were talking to me earlier in my career about like bartering and like finding those things where you can make those types of trades, and it really drew my mind to something that the only people that really can barter are those people that can say yes and no, those business owners that can control things. And by bartering, you're also directly contacting what I call a hub. because there's so many people around us that work 9 to 5. They spend time talking each day with about six of their coworkers, kind of. And then on the weekends, they tend to do similar things where they come into contact with small groups of the same people over and over again. But when you come into contact with one of these hubs, like my favorite one is a hairdresser, not a regular 9 to 5 worker, self employed, solopreneur, and she talks to hundreds of people each week. And they talk to her about everything. And making some type of synergistic relationship with those hubs, man, it resonates in the community.
Absolutely. No, first thing, the hairdresser is the number one person you want in your BNI. We're what's called ABC now, Equipment Business Connections, but it's the same thing as BNI. And I know that you and Tony, or at least Tony, is involved in BNI, so you know what I'm talking about there. But I haven't paid for a haircut, I think, in about 20 years. So I've been bartering for my gym memberships, boot camps, haircuts. I literally haven't given Dan a dollar in 15 to 20 years. We just barter constantly. So well, I used to own a restaurant called The Fifth Element, which he really liked. So I gave him $100 gift certificate on January 1st and $100 gift certificate on July 1st. And I got all free haircuts. Now, I don't have a ton of hair and I'm not very complicated, right? So I understand that that's not the most difficult cut for him. And I was a perfect white space filler. I know that you know what white space fillers are, right? Right, Taylor, from making your calls and so on.
You
So
betcha.
if he had like a blowout at like 2, and then he had like a color at 3:30, he would like put me in as a white space filler at like 3:15 while one of them was drying and one of them was blow drying or whatever the hell they're doing. So he would just slot me in there. I'm in and out in 7 minutes. I'm like, boom, let's go. But yeah, bartering is a great way. I've always everything. People, I can't go to the Patriots this weekend. Who wants my tickets? Like, I'll give you like whatever. I'm like, no, I don't want money. Come up with something. Barter. Like, well, I don't have anything to barter. Like, well, get creative. I don't like, there's nothing in it for me to exchange monies for a ticket. I'm like,
Hmm.
if you don't have anything to barter, then come up with something, create an experience that I would be interested in, and let's barter here. Because if I take, say, $50 tickets and there's four of them and I sell them to you for $200, nothing happened there. There was no exchange of honesty or trust or appreciative or reciprocity, or there's nothing happening. It's just a transaction. It's the way I kind of live my real estate career too. Transactions are meaningless to me. I would rather give the tickets away, have those person have a great experience, and years later them think of me and maybe there's some reciprocity, they have a referral, than just do a straightforward transaction. I know that may not make a whole lot of sense to a whole lot of people, but that's just the way I've always been. And I'm like, well, go create an experience. Think of something. Wait until April and pick up some really cool Red Sox tickets and it surprise me. Like just take them. They're yours. That's kind of how I even if somebody doesn't have anything to barter, they can figure something out, Taylor, right?
Hmm. And that
Come
must
up with
lead you on
something.
some excellent adventures.
It does, in fact. Yeah, absolutely it does.
Yeah, that's a cool idea, is it has to be more than money. Hmm.
Otherwise, it's just a transaction. What's
Hmm.
interesting about that?
Yeah, it's not memorable at all.
There's
And
no
that's just the
win.
nature of things, is people will forget what you say, they forget what you do, but they never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And
I'm
by
always
doing that,
looking
you
for a
keep having
win-win.
these impacts, right?
Always looking for a win-win, Taylor. And selling tickets for face value is just a transaction and doesn't do anything for anybody, and then it's just not worth my time.
So
Why
now
do
at the
it?
level that you are, as you're working towards your 10-year vision, like what do you see as next criteria steps? You're like, man, we need to like get from here to there, or we just want to do more of this.
I'm at the stage now where I'm okay with plateauing.
Mhm.
I was very young, very aggressive. Those days are gone, thank God. The last 10 years or so have been, I want people to know who I am. I want people to know where we're at. I want people to know what we do. We're there. I'm hoping that somebody listening to this isn't in the very early growth stage, because I'm past that now. We've achieved what we wanted to achieve in that everybody knows who Fitzpatrick team is. Everybody understands what we do. When people see me, whether I'm door knocking or I'm at an event or I'm handing out bags at a grocery, whatever it is, they already know who I am. So I'm just cementing that relationship and hoping to plateau at a place where I'm extremely happy. My COO is extremely happy. Everybody on my team makes a fantastic living. We're as long as we avoid a catastrophe, we're all going to be very happy and well fed for the next 10 years because we've put ourselves in a situation now where, short of Armageddon, I'm not sure there's anything that can happen to this market that we're not prepared for, ready for, have saved for, um, can adapt to, have already trained for a lot of these situations that people are dreading. We're ready for it. I mean, so I think we're just in a really good place. And I think anyone on the team here in this office, anyone here would agree with me. And all on different levels. Obviously, we all have different roles on the team, but I think we're in a really good place.
Oh, that's great. And that must feel good from your side as well, as just to kind of have earned your way here because so few people have. During that, you were saying when you're door knocking. Do you door knock often now?
Well, I more do it to encourage the agents to, but we will absolutely. The only exception to not liking door knocking is when you get a listing, especially if it's an assigned listing from me. You must door knock because a huge part of our business, and Tyler Bernardin on my team, I'm not sure if you know him, he actually does an entire session on it. But it's how to turn your listings into 3 to 5 pieces of business, how to leverage a listing into 3 to 5 pieces of business. We're not interested in getting a listing and securing a listing and getting listing paperwork and getting a percentage for selling that and then selling it and thinking, okay, I have this tangible cash. We're only interested in getting that listing so we can immediately leverage that into 4, 5, 6 other pieces of business. And a huge part of that is circle prospecting our listings. And a huge part of circle prospecting your listings is meeting the neighbors. And it's very difficult to do that if you don't door knock. If you hate door knocking, we're going to give you a very good, valid reason with huge value to that homeowner to door knock to get you past that. Okay. So if you only want to catch the low-lying fruit, which is knock, knock, hello, I'm Joe Fitzpatrick. You saw my sign. I listed that house. I want to invite you to a neighbors only open house. It's going to be this weekend, an hour before our regular open house. We'll have some champagne, donuts, orange juice, whatever. Like the easiest door knock you can do. So they know when they're knocking on that door, they're providing information just as easy as the one, hey, we just closed last Monday. Knock, knock, I'm Joe Fitzpatrick. You saw my sign. I've been here for 6 weeks. We finally closed. Here's the goodies. Here's the information that every single neighbor wants. How much did it sell for, right? That's what everybody wants. You have that information. So the door knocking part, quite frankly, is a huge part of our business. So yes, I understand why people don't like it. And I understand why during COVID it took a huge hit, and that all makes sense. But leveraging your listings and door knocking is back, and it's back in a big way. And if you give people a reason to door knock, even if it's like knock, 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 hi, I'm Joe, I have an open house this weekend. I'm just here to apologize. There's going to be some extra vehicular traffic here. There's going to be cars parked out front. I know this is inconvenient for you. I just want to let you know it's me. It's because of us. We're sorry. We'll be in in 2 hours. We'll try and keep the traffic moving. I'll have extra people here to make it as less convenient for you as possible. But I just want to introduce myself. If you ever need anything, here's my card. But God, so we're not having them knock on the door and say, "Do you want to sell your house?" We're having them knock on the door to provide value to that homeowner. And if you can get your agents to understand that concept and buy into it, Taylor, they will all door knock, especially if you give them the low-lying fruit and the easiest door knock on the planet.
I see what you see. Door knocking was a big part of my past. I was actually out door knocking last week. I definitely see what people talk about. Like last week we had Dean Jackson on. You ever run into Dean?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, he's in Florida now. He runs the listing lifestyle podcast. He does a lot with listing multiplier, like you mentioned. You ever run across the 9-word email? Like,
The 9-word email sounds familiar, but no, I can't. I can't say
oh,
I
this
did.
guy has invented a few things in marketing, but he runs GoGo Agent, and what they focus on is how to turn your listing into more listings and more like business around. So really neat from that. But he was talking about the same thing you were, which is that there's like the first kind of like ripple if you tossed in a stone into the water is all the neighbors that can actually see your sign from their window, right? Like that heat point and talking to those neighbors at least, or going out to that second ripple, where there's people that will drive by to and from work and stuff like that, kind of running from there. I was talking to Andy, the top agent in California, and he was talking about like leveraging signs. And he says, you know what? It's not just about the people that attend the open house. It's about everybody who sees your sign. So why wouldn't you extend the amount of time that you're putting out and picking up signs, make that an hour, and then run like a 3-hour open house or a 2-hour open house? But setting out 50 signs and taking the time to do that, if your area would allow that, or if you can just kind of risk it for the biscuit in some cases, but that will over time have a big compounding effect.
Yeah, I agree. The ripple effect is what we call the 5-5-10 rule. Which is when circle prospecting, if they're really reluctant to door knock and they don't want to work the whole neighborhood, like fine, you got to do the 5-5-10 rule. So 5 houses this way, 5 houses that way, and 10 across. That's the
Mm-hmm.
minimum standard that we'll accept. And for the most part, we don't get participation from 100% of people. Everybody on this call knows that. But for the most part, that is the minimum standard we set. Because if you're not willing to do that, we're just simply not going to sign you a listing. That's just it's just a wasted opportunity. You could sell the house in an hour. It doesn't make any difference. The seller's happy, and if you're a transactional agent, you're happy. But I'm devastated because that's not our goal here. Yes, our goal is to sell the house for the seller, but we need to leverage that listing into more pieces of business if we want to continue to grow and load that pipeline. So we can do that and still sell it in an hour as long as we're following the standard, the operating procedures. But if you're not door knocking, you at least the 5-5-10 rule. If you're not mailing them, if you're not working it, then what are you really doing? And that's how foreign the concept of transacting a listing is to us. That devastated might be a strong word, but I would be disappointed if we sold it in an hour and didn't leverage it in some manner.
Absolutely. And so I see that door knocking is a big part of this. It sounds like it's tied to open houses. Is there anything
Yep.
else that you guys are really focused on making sure happens, or that you think that if you're missing it, you're missing out on too much?
For the most part, you can circle prospect anything. You can circle prospect your home, which is obvious. We have flyers in Canva. Hi, I'm Taylor. This is my wife. This is my kids look like. You probably see me walk my dog. I just introduce myself. And then you create a flyer. You door knock. We call them door hangers. We're not allowed to put stuff in the post box in America. You're not allowed to use the mailbox. So it has to be a door hanger. So you can circle prospect, which is the ripple effect that you spoke about. I think the most effective one is open houses. Okay. Because you have the information, you have the goodies. You know how much it's being listed for. Then you can tell them at the open house, invite their friends, ask them what they love about the neighborhood so you can share that information. And then you go post-closing, you tell them what it's sold for. That's the goodies. The second easiest one is circle prospecting your own home. That makes sense, right, Taylor? Then you
Mm-hmm.
might circle prospect your parents' home. Hi, I'm Taylor. These are my parents. You've probably seen them. They drive this truck. They live across the street. Create a flyer. Introduce yourself. They're not home. Drop it on the door. Has a QR code with a direct link to your digital listing presentation. Any other information, Remax stuff you want to give them, it's all in that QR code. There you go. Next, I would say is if you don't have any listings, if you're a brand new agent, then just pick a listing. This property is listed by Taylor Hack. Fine. I'm still going to, I don't have my own listing, so I'm going to circle prospect that listing. Hey, did you see that 181 Castle Drive came on? This is what it's listed for. Here are the comps. I'm looking at online. It looks like you have, some equity in your home. Whatever your script is your script. I'm not going to go into scripts or anything, but just pick somebody else's listing. And then even on a lesser level, not just pick a house and just circle prospect it. I mean, there's endless ways. There's obviously order condescendes, but I would say that open houses, your home and your parents' home are probably your top three.
Interesting. I think that that's a neat take on like using that mechanism of circle prospecting. I don't hear many people talk about it as a reference to your own property.
I got 2 minutes.
Obvious.
Is
What's
that
that?
okay? I got 2 minutes. I just got a warning.
No problem.
Okay, sorry.
So if anybody, like we have Joe for another 2 minutes. So if anybody wants to pop into the chat with anything that they want to talk about
Hang
that
on one
he's
sec. Let me
brought
see
up
if I
so
can
far.
get it. Hey, Claire, can I stay on this a little longer?
We're
Okay.
just holding here while
All right,
Joe
thanks.
is negotiating with his assistant on whether or not he can get a couple of more minutes.
She said I'm good. She'll push it back.
Okay, that's great. So we'll just ask out if anybody has anything that they want to talk or hear Joe talk about um, related to what we're kind of working on. But I think that when we were initially discussing having you on, I was kind of letting you know where we titled this podcast. We call it "The Leads Are Shit" because that's often what people say when their marketing and their sales efforts are not aligning. Sometimes it's on the sales side where they're not converting and they blame the leads. Sometimes on the marketing side, and maybe they're trying to sell to people that are just looking for more content because they're further out. Well,
Okay.
then they feel that misalignment and they always feel like, well, leads are crap. Like this just isn't going to work. Where
I
do you
guess,
see that? Do you get that feedback sometimes?
I guess the first thing I would say if somebody said the leads were shit, I would ask them if they have a standard operating procedure. We touched on that, Ted. I'm sure you seem like somebody who has a standard operating procedure for everything.
I keep a
Um,
couple notes.
um, but you know, leads are shit if you don't follow up on them, right? And leads are shit if you wait 45 minutes to call them when it first comes in. And leads are shit if you don't understand the concept of having a process in place to appropriately follow up with them, or if you don't understand correctly when the highest level of success comes from your follow up. So I think that most people think when they get a brand new lead, if they call, that's their best opportunity. And then they say, well, I'll call again tomorrow, or depending on your SOP, it might be 5 hours later, or leave 5 voicemails in 10 days, or whatever it is. So as long as you have a standard operating procedure, I don't really care what it is, as long as you have one and your agents buy into it and agree to it. Hey, do you want leads? Yes. Okay. Well, in exchange for accepting this lead, you agree to follow my SOP. I don't really care what the SOP is as long as that's understood. But I think you probably know, and I definitely know that the highest percentage return of conversion on an internet lead is called, I think 5, 6, 7, or it might be 6, 7, 8.
Hmm.
Whatever it is, it's not what people think it is. It's people think it's 1, 2, 3, and like, oh well, I called 3 times, they didn't answer, so now I'm done. When in fact, the percentages actually get higher the more calls you make, and so I think the logic people think it's the opposite.
I think it's almost like swimming out past the breakers. You know, like when a lot of people talk about it, this on the ocean where the waves crash is going to be like not calm. But once you get past that, it kind of sorts itself out. Well, a lot of the time when people are coming through on your website, if there's someone who's willing to give their information on the website, you're not the first time. You're not even the first time today. You're in a race with 7 other agents right now, and most of them won't make it to call two. So if you make it to call two, now you're not in a race with 7 agents. You might be in a race with 2 agents. If you make it to call four, you're the only one in the race statistically. And then if you can actually make it to the fifth contact where you're conversing with that person, that's where we see relationships begin. So as much as the leads are shit, the leads are people. And if you can get the people to open up to you and talk to them and then start to understand their timeline, if you're empathetic enough to realize that they're trying to accomplish a job and just to understand them without your own like target in mind, well, then you just make a big factory of you're ready this year, you're ready next year. We don't know when you're ready next, but let's keep talking and see where it goes.
Yeah, I got 25 years left. I mean, if I can load a pipeline for, September of 2025, then why wouldn't I? I mean, it doesn't really matter to me, but you're right. They will fall off one after one. And people may enter their name and number today, and then somebody gets sick, somebody dies, something comes up at work, they have to travel, and they put things on hold without communicating that to anybody. But then they're ready 2, 3, 4 months later, and you're the only person still following up with them, even if they'd ignored you 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14 times in a row. The fact that you're still there, they will have, whether you realize or not, they feel like they have a relationship with you because they've heard your voice 14 times in 4 months. and they will feel an obligation to call you, even though you've never spoken to them. So we try to explain these things and we try to get them across and we try to make sure that people understand. But as a team leader, as I am, and I know you are, it's our job, I think, it's actually our responsibility to come up with and provide a standard operating procedure and set expectations. We can't inspect unless we tell them what to expect. And, you know, I think that's our job and we need to do that. I think it's irresponsible of you to give your team members leads without providing them with a standard operating procedure on how you expect them to follow up and what you think the avenue to success is. Leads aren't shit. The ability to convert and follow up is, I
Absolutely.
think. Yeah.
And I agree with you. Like, success is where preparation meets opportunity. And without a plan, there is no preparation. So then it's just opportunity, and that's most likely missed opportunity. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You have
I
to give
couldn't
yourself a
agree
lot of
more.
you have to give yourself a lot of opportunities if you're going to try and convert them without a plan. I agree.
Yeah, well, it just ends up being happenstance, right? Like, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, but you're not going to achieve the levels of success that you want and you expect by hoping to, walk around in the dark and bump into something often enough.
Absolutely. And I also think that that really shows in your experience is understanding that, you just like, what is that? What do they say? Plan your work and then work your plan.
Yeah.
Because then you can tweak it and adjust it from year to year because you've benefited from your years of experience. Who knows an agent that it seems that they've been in business for 10 years and they might have actually gained the experience of 1 year 10 times? Like they just seem to be forever in grade one, you know?
I know
And
several of those.
yeah, and there's other people that learn from the experience of others, therefore not having to do it themselves, which is really where we're coming from in making a podcast like this. And I know that was why you'd be receptive to coming on here. You're so generous with how you help people achieve success because you've got a great handle and a great understanding of what it takes to be there. But there's so many people that are like, Joe, like how do you possibly get to where you are?
Yeah, well, I mean, what I share with my agents all the time is I made a lot of expensive financially and emotionally mistakes. And I just want them to learn the lessons of those mistakes without having to necessarily suffer the consequences that I did. So I'm trying to give them the fast track. So I did a presentation for the torchbearers. I'm sure you know what that is, the top 40 under 40 in Remax. And I explained to them, hey, I was a platinum agent in 2000 and I was a diamond agent in 2018. So do the math. It took me 17 years. It was called platinum to diamond. That was the name of the session that I did. I said it took me 17 years to go from platinum to diamond because I listed off the various mistakes and stupid stuff I did. And I said, all I'm trying to do today is share with you my experiences, tell you a few stories, and hope that I know you will all go from these were all kind of platinum level, might have been one or two chairmans, but for the most part, the torchbearers are in that platinum low chairman level. I want you to do the exact same thing I did, but in like 6 years, right? Nobody's going to go from platinum to diamond overnight. I mean, very few people will anyway. So I said, I just want you to listen to a few stories and learn from some of my mistakes and what took me, 17 years maybe will take you seven, right? And isn't that really why we're all here? We're all here to learn and help each other. So it was interesting to me.
That sounds awesome. The
It was.
I like the way you look back on that as though you should make every mistake, just none of them twice.
Yeah, there's always something to learn. Everything that happens to us, Taylor, today, tomorrow, yesterday, even something that happened last night into this morning. I'm like, I'm not angry about it, but let's learn from this, make an adjustment and move on. Everything that we do, we add another process or another step to the process to make sure it doesn't happen again. And as long as you understand there's really no mistakes, just opportunities to learn, then as soon as you figure that out, your life will become a lot easier.
Well, I'm very grateful that through happenstance I ended up running into you almost a decade ago, right?
Yeah.
And it's been something that has been truly a gift to watch you progress through this part of your career. I've only been watching the last 10 years, and what you're telling me, it's the good part anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It's the only part worth watching to get through all the fluff.
I don't believe that, man. You've also told me about some of the parts that you had to grind through, and it's sure impressive. Like
Yeah, it is.
you may not play rugby, but you definitely got the mentality it would take
Yeah.
to be grindy and grind through everything. I really appreciate you joining us today. I do want to make sure that we get you out on time. So, where can people find you? I think you hang out on Instagram, right?
Yeah, let me see what my Instagram handle is. Hang on one sec. Um, it is at Joey Fitz Remax. Maybe you can
At
see that
Joey
or not.
Fitz Remax, look for the guy
Yeah.
wearing the tie.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
my funeral suit.
Yeah, the I don't see you wear a tie very often, but I have to say, like for those people, I didn't maybe give you enough credit during the opening, but Joe runs a mega team. He runs a team inside of a brokerage that he shares with another mega team that they've joined, and they run Rhode Island. So if you're looking for an example of someone who has really done it well, what Joe describes as plateauing is what most people. I don't think that they would carry that pace. That's definitely not a coast. So definitely find Joe, and I appreciate you coming to see us here. It's always great to spend some time and chat with you and catch up.
Taylor, I really appreciate it. We've had a great relationship since we've met, and I love that you keep in touch. And anytime you want to reach out, and I'd love to hear from people. You can shoot me a message on Instagram after they watch all my silly videos where I like to make fun of myself. And I highly encourage R&D, which is rip off and duplicate. So if you're working on videos and you're trying to push some reels out there and help your branding, just watch any of my silly ones and rip them off. I highly encourage you to do so. But I'd love to keep in touch or answer any questions. Just shoot me a DM on Instagram is probably the easiest way. Or if you have a longer question, just shoot me a DM and I'll send you my email address and we'll communicate from there. But thank you, Taylor, and I really appreciate it, man. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
And thank you to everybody who is watching live and watching in the future. This has been The Leads Are Shit with Joe Fitzpatrick and Taylor Hack. And we'll catch you next time, Andrew. Talk soon.
See ya. Thanks, man.